The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Investment advice offered through Fragasso Financial Advisors, a registered investment advisor.
Welcome to The Advisor, presented by Fragasso Financial Advisors. This is Marcia Posset, Marketing Manager at Fragasso and this radio show's producer. I'm here today with our hosts, Bob Fragasso and Mike Fertig.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
And today's topic is portfolio strategies for year-end tax planning. And we have two returning guests from Fragasso staff in the studio today, Brianne King and Michael Godwin.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
Sure, thanks for coming back. Brianne and Michael, can you take a moment to tell us about your background and what you do at Fragasso?
Yeah, I'm the manager of financial planning at Fragasso. I oversee our financial planning process. I work with the advisors and the financial planning analysts who put together all the financial plans that we offer for our clients and our prospects.
Mike?
Yeah, I head up the portfolio management department, so I'm in charge of really determining the asset allocation strategies for our clients' portfolios, how much they should have in equities and fixed income, and then also delineating between which stocks, bonds, mutual funds, et cetera, we have in our clients' portfolios.
The purpose of our show, as always, is to provide helpful information to you, our listeners, as a guide in your financial journey, and also to bring expert opinion and analysis to you. And today's expert opinion is very timely because we're talking about harvesting and taking advantage of the tax situation as we round year end.
Fragasso Financial Advisors is primarily a fee-based investment management firm. We work on a platform of holistic financial planning and provide advice for individuals, retirement plans, foundations, and endowments. We have locations in downtown Pittsburgh, in the South Hills, in Bethel Park, and at Cool Springs Resort. And out in the North Hills in Wexford. We are a team of certified financial planner practitioners. Brianne King, who is with us today, is one of our certified financial planner practitioners. We are also chartered financial analysts. Michael Godwin, who's with us, is one of our CFAs. And we have others in our portfolio management department as well as other CFPs in our who are our financial advisors within the firm. We are also accredited investment fiduciaries. In all, Fragasso employs about 50 professionals, ranging from the financial advisors to the portfolio management team to our administrative, operational, marketing, and retirement plan services personnel.
And today's topic is portfolio strategies for year-end tax planning. So, Bob, can you please explain why this is such an important topic?
Well, taxes, Marcia, are a critical component in financial planning. While we are not tax accountants, we work with our clients, with their tax advisors, to incorporate tax-wise investment techniques. The top individual income tax rate, as of the time of this airing, we will see it may change as we likely move a tax bill through, is 39.6%. So for 2017, it's a foregone conclusion that the top tax rate is just about 40%. The middle class top tax rate is usually around 25%, could be 33%. That's pretty major, because any of the gains, any of the income that you derive during the year keeps being thrown on top of the pile, and it's taxed in your highest bracket. That's onerous. Even if you hold an investment for longer than a year, the tax rate will be 20% of your gains. That's still not small. So with an incentive to save 20%, 33%, or 40% of income or investment gains, we should be properly motivated to sit up straight and listen to today's show. We have a reconciliation committee looking at the Senate and House tax bills. They're pending. As I said, 2017 is, as they say, in the can. So this is what we're dealing with, these tax rates. Next year, we'll have a different set of tax rates. So, Brianne, let's go over those tax rates in a little bit more detail in the income categories.
So like you mentioned, Bob, tax rates, there's a range. They start at 10% and they go up to the 39.6, which is the top tax rate. As most people know, we're taxed on a tier system, so your first dollar is taxed much differently than your last dollar is taxed. So as you continue to move through that tax rates and you continue to have income added on to your tax return, you're going to be taxed at a much higher rate than you were with the first dollar. So that's why it's really important to be cognizant of your dividends, your interest, your capital gains, because that's going to be taxed at the top rate that you fall into.
Brianne, why do we focus on that top tax bracket when we're considering tax savings?
We focus on that because that's going to be the last dollar that you're taxed at. So, for example, if you think about the income categories, dividend and interest, it's taxed at your ordinary income tax rate. So that's that 10% going up to the 39.6%. Capital gains, they're taxed a little different. They tax at a rate of 0 up to 20%. So even though you're taxed at a lower rate with the capital gains, it's going to increase your taxable income and move you up through the tax brackets even faster.
So all the action happens in the top tax bracket.
Yes. All the pain is at the end.
Sure, because that's where your decisions are. You don't make decisions that impact your average tax.
Right.
You make decisions that impact your top tax bracket.
Right. And that's why it's so important to be cognizant of where you're going to fall. And especially any financial planning decisions you make need to be within the realm of what's the top tax bracket you're going to be taxed at.
So if I give you $1 of income today, it's taxed in your highest bracket.
That's correct.
Conversely, if you're smart enough to shelter $1 of income,
Yep.
it doesnst come out of the middle, it gets taken off the top.
That's correct.
All right, we've nailed this top tax bracket thing. It is important. Brianne, as a baseline, let's make clear how long-term capital gains tax is calculated with publicly traded securities.
So long-term capital gains means that you purchase a security, a stock, and you held it for more than a year. That makes it a long-term capital gain. This, again, like I said, is taxed at a different rate than your ordinary income. This is taxed at a 0, 10, 15, 20% capital gains rate. So if you sold a stock for $10,000 and you purchase it for $5,000, that $5,000 is going to be taxed at your applicatory rate based on where your ordinary income tax falls.
So if you're a young person with very little income, you could sell something and potentially have a 0 capital gains rate. But for most of us adults, we're going to be at 10 or 20%.
Most adults will be 10 or 20%. And if you fall into the top tax bracket, don't forget that Medicare tax. It's another 3.8% on top of that. So.
Well, so we're motivated to try and save this if we can. Mike Godwin, explain the concept of selling for a tax loss.
Sure. So, as Brianne mentioned, if you own an asset or a stock, for example, that has gone down in value since you bought it, you're now carrying that as an unrealized loss on your portfolio. So that obviously isn't the goal of anybody who goes out to buy an asset. They want to buy it and see it appreciated. So to make the best out of a bad situation, you can take that loss in a taxable or non-qualified account and sell that and use those losses to offset any capital gains that you may have incurred in your portfolio. The goal is obviously to reduce the amount of taxes that you're going to be paying to the government.
How reasonable is it for an investor to think that he or she or they will have only securities at a gain?
That is a tricky question to answer. It's very unreasonable. Very rarely, when you go out to purchase a security, are you buying it at the trough or the trough of that security. So eventually, when you hold something, it's going to probably be at a loss at a given time in your portfolio. Now, the goal of long-term investing is you buy something and over a very long time frame, it should appreciate in value and no longer be held at a loss. But there are definitely periods of time in your investment horizon where you're going to be holding something at a loss. And if you're smart enough to take advantage of those losses to offset some kind of capital gains, it can definitely benefit your overall portfolio.
Well, that is a key point, what you've just described in this. You buy with the expectation that you've made a good decision.
Right.
It may or may not work out, but time is an important factor in having it work out. But in the meantime, as you said, these securities fluctuate in value. Well, you may be coming up against year end, like this year with a high tax bracket, and so you want to sell that and use that as a loss.
Correct.
And how do the losses apply long-term, short-term?
So Again, a short-term loss, just a definition of the two. A short-term loss, and Bree has mentioned this before, is recognizing any losses from the purchase of a security that somebody made in their portfolio within the past year. And a long-term loss would be recognizing the loss of a security that you purchased over 365 days ago.
Okay. And when we apply them against each other, is a long-term loss or a short-term loss more valuable?
Well, it's certainly better to recognize a short-term loss and offset that against a short-term gain, because once again, as Bree mentioned, your short-term gains are taxed at your ordinary income tax rate. So that's goal number one. But any place that we can recognize a loss, whether it is short-term or long-term, we certainly take a look at that.
I mean, obviously, we would like to take short-term losses and long-term losses because it's good from a tax perspective. It's not great from a portfolio perspective, but you need to think about on the flip side is when you have gains built in, and I think we'll be seeing a lot of over the past 10 years where the market has been doing so well, you have these big gains built into your portfolio that you want to be careful that you're not building up a concentrated position just to not harvest a gain. I know, Mike, you've probably dealt with that with your clients about when their positions gets too large and it's the point where we need to actually start taking gains off the table. Is that a difficult discussion to have with them?
Yeah, it is sometimes. I want to mention a couple of things, but that specifically, yeah, sometimes people think, well, my goodness, why are you selling that one? It's done so well. And you have to understand that these things occur in cycles, and what has gone up is eventually going to level off and move in the other direction. I want to couple that point with something that Bob and Mike Godwin talked about a moment ago, and that is how reasonable is it for someone to expect that they're only going to buy stuff that goes up? It's unreasonable. And anyone who is following the textbook principles of balance and asset allocation, they're going to have several securities in their portfolio. These securities are not going to move in the same direction as one another. So something is almost always going to be moving opposite some other stuff. So you want that in the portfolio. And then you want to take this stuff, Brian, that you just talked about that has gone up, and you want to, I'll call it kind of take those wins off the table and reinvest it into the stuff that has been lower.
We're just about ready for a short break, and then we'll pick up where we left off to further discuss portfolio strategies for year-end tax planning. But before we do so, I want to remind our listeners that you too can take part in our show, The Advisor. Submit your questions anytime on our website at FragasoAdvisors.com/radio. And we're also offering a free white paper this week, authored by Breanne King, who's on today's show. It's titled 3 Considerations That May Reduce Your Portfolio Income Tax Footprint. So take advantage of this and many other free downloads on the radio page of Fragaso's website.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Investment advice offered through Fragaso Financial Advisors, a registered investment advisor.